So at the top here, you see the administration building in the top left, the original administration building, and then across from it, the renovated. So just I love looking at these pictures together because they did such a fantastic job on the restoration. I do wish I had been around at that time, but I love going and looking at those pictures. Um, so at the bottom, you see house number 266, which belonged to the Cash family. This was the most recent completed, and I'm going to emphasize the word completed restoration project, and you'll find out about that in a minute. And it opened in 2014. So you'll see little JR there in front of the porch, and then the way that it looks today. So you'll hear me say JR and Johnny back and forth because he was born in Kingsland in 1932. When he was 3, they moved to Dice. He was known as JR up until he went into the military. They wouldn't take initials, so he went to John R. Cash. And then when he came back from the military, started his music career, that's where the name Johnny Cash came from. So you'll hear me go back and forth between two of them. All right, so as part of the project, a colony center was established. So on this, the way that it's explained is they wanted to set it up like a wagon wheel. So you'll see in this area right here in the center, that's Dice Colony, the circle, what we call it. They wanted everything that to be in the center. So the administration building, the commissary, everything you would need in that area. And then going out similar to spokes would be the houses. So you see in the surrounding area, the houses with the 20 acres of farmland. So that's what they had in mind when they were setting up Dice Colony, is that wagon wheel. So families were recruited from all over Arkansas. Thankfully, the Cash family applied and were accepted. I'm so glad because honestly, I don't know if we didn't have the Cash name. I would like to think we would be open and available, but that opens the door for us to get people in who love and are interested in Johnny Cash, and then tell them the incredible history of it. So the Cash family were accepted, and in March of 1935, they moved to Dice, house number 266. So Ray and Carrie Cash were mom and dad. Along with them was 3-year-old JR, and then 4 other siblings. Roy was 13, Louise was 11, Jack 5, and Reba 1. Later on, while they were living there, Joanne and Tommy, the 2 youngest siblings, were born. If you notice the picture in the top left-hand corner, that is at the opening, Eleanor Roosevelt. She dedicated the colony in 1936. I still get chills when I'm standing on that porch area of the administration building, thinking about her standing there and shaking every person's hand in Dice Colony. Okay, so before and after, here we see Dice Theater. It was built in 1947 after the original community building burned. It did have a pop shop onto the side. When it started renovation, you can see this upper right-hand picture. All that was there was the facade of the theater, so there was nothing behind that. On down in the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see when restoration was beginning, and they added on what we have now is our gift shop. So the picture in the lower right-hand section is what it looks like now. This is where all of our tours start. So they'll go into the gift shop in the visitor center, and we have an introductory orientation film. We have some other exhibits. We have the theater room. We have the projector, which is incredible because Tommy Cash worked at the theater there, and he engraved his name on one of the projectors years ago. So thankfully we have that, and it is on display. Also, just a cool side note that we have right now, in case you haven't heard, Johnny Cash was placed in the U.S. Capitol to represent Arkansas along with Daisy Bates. We have the bust that Kevin Cressy did of Johnny for that statue on display in the visitor center. So if you get a chance to come by and see that, it's pretty cool. He did an incredible job. Restoration funds came from Arkansas Natural and Cultural Resource Council grants, challenge grants from the National Endowment for the Humanities. Lots of fundraising went into these projects and grant writing. All right, so the Cash home, it was built in 1935. It's been restored to its appearance when the Cash family lived there. They lived there from 1935 to 1954. It was furnished based on recollections from family members. They went to great extent to make sure it was as close to the original as possible. So a couple things, let me back up here. We have gumbo soil at Dice. If you're not familiar with that, it cracks, it's just kind of gunky. It's our fence that we have around the Cash house, where you can kind of see at the bottom right hand corner is now uneven. It just up and down because of that gumbo soil and how it shifts. So in order to keep that from damaging the house, they took it, the upper left hand picture was how they found the house. The one next to it, they moved the house, dug underneath so they could have a good foundation for it, and then put it exactly in the same location as where it was located. So if you'll notice the bottom left hand, they were very particular about getting that back in the original spot. And then you see on the right hand side the house as it looks today, the restored version. Now the restoration funds for the house, a lot of those came from the first Johnny Cash Music Festival, which was a big music festival that was, the first one was actually held at Old Convocation Center. They raised funds with some of the Cash family members for the renovation process. For years, they had the Johnny Cash Heritage Festival set up outside on the parking lot next to the house, set up the stage. COVID, of course, we went to a virtual concert, and then we kind of revamped, and now we have more programming going on year round. We have our Arkansas Roots Music Festival out there in April 12th this year, and then we do our big Sunken Land Songwriting Circle. We do it on campus at Fowler Center in Riceland Hall, which is fantastic because it is indoors, so you don't have that worry of weather. So that's kind of how we transitioned, and we do our professional development and such, which was part of the festival throughout the entire year. Okay, some really cool things to point out in the house. In the upper left-hand corner, you'll see the piano that is the original piano of Carrie Cash. It's just such a special thing to have. We keep the songbook open, and I think it's so funny because you can see the pages in the middle of turning, because every time you open the door, that wind is going to catch it and blow it. But we keep it on open to the unclouded day. That was the first song performed by Johnny and his mom, accompanying him on the piano. On the bottom right hand corner, that's out of one of the rooms. Mom and Dad, Carrie and Ray's bed is over to the left, but the floor is what I wanted to point out to you. It's Congolian. The original floors were located in the house. The one that was in the living room was really worn, so it was actually moved into the dining room, and one of the others moved into the living room. We do have folks wear their blue booties in to help protect, but the one that's in the dining room is roped off. In the center, I pulled up that section of the picture so you could see the flower box underneath. One of the things that Joanne and Tommy remembered was their mom keeping purple, white, or pink flowers in the flower boxes. So we keep flowers, purple, pink, white, in those flower boxes when we can, year round, except for the off season of flowers, just to keep it historically accurate. So it's any little detail like that, as you all know, is important, and it really brings the place to life because you can tell folks about that. We've had visitors now from over 77 countries, so it's really an awesome experience to be able to enlighten them on the history there in Arkansas. And cotton, some of them have never seen cotton before. Because of the gumbo soil, the farmers in the area no longer grow cotton around the house in that area. They grow soybeans and rice because it produces better. So we have one of the area farmers that keeps the perimeter of the house in 2 rows of cotton. So we do have that as a shout out to the Cash family and when they grew cotton there. And people love it. They touch it. They want to take it, and it's just a great experience. All right. So which is very important to me with the education background. What can we do to tell all different ages about these stories and about this history? So here are some things that we do at the Johnny Cash Boyhood Home. We have field trips, so we offer $5 per student. That includes the tour, educational programming, which can be specific to what the teacher needs. Pretty much anything that a teacher tells us, I want to do a program on this, we can make a connection to. Um, we have a Fall Fest for kindergarten, first, and second grade. And then we have tailored programs as well for high school. So in the bottom left-hand corner, that's one of our Fall Fest pictures. The middle is from one of our combo tours, Southern Tenant Farmers Museum, which I will get to in just a bit. It's just 15 minutes away from DICE, so we offer a combo tour for that. So this group came toward the Johnny Cash Boy at Home, had a program, ate lunch in the theater room, and then we're getting ready to head over to Southern Tenant Farmers for a tour. The group on the right is one of my favorite activities. We have Johnny Cash's book, Forever Words, which has his poems and some of them in his own handwriting. And then we just do an activity, and it's just about pulling them in any way we can. We tell them the history and then talk about Johnny Cash and ask, why was he called the man in black? And then, you'll get answers because he wore black or because he was always in trouble, he was a rebel and all this. And so then we really talk about it. And then they get up and I give them a copy of the lyrics and they each read a section. And then it tells about it's the lyrics of the man in black and why he wore black, for the poor and beaten down, and just tells a lot about him. And then we talk about that. So there's a lot of ways to mix in, just everyday topics and any area besides just history into our sites. So that brings in English groups. It opens it up to different categories, different areas that can come and visit. Okay, here's some more programs that we do. And again, the purpose of this is not just, although it's fun to bring in and do fun activities, but as young, even as kindergarten, first and second, you can see the maracas activity, for example. The middle picture here, we have volunteers, these older kids from the East programs and just the high schools from the local schools that will come in and help with these programs. We have different stations. You'll see after they make their maracas, which is just plastic Easter eggs, rice, tape, and plastic spoons, we set up a little trail. It can be a numbered trail. So we pull in our math folks. You can do it even numbers, odd numbers, whatever you want. And we listen to the Johnny Cash Children's CD, and they follow the path and shake the little maracas. So we get our music folks, we can get our math folks, and we're bringing them in and meeting their standards, and yet telling them about this history and getting them interested in it. Now, is the kindergartner, like these little folks down in the bottom left-hand corner, who's so cute with their little blue booties on, do they understand every part of it? No, but do they understand enough to know it's an important part of history? Yes. And that's what we want. We want to spark that interest. And the teachers do a fantastic job. We give them items that they can go over before and resources, and then after. So some things that we do in the backyard, like this bottom right-hand picture, we keep the different stages of cotton. We keep examples of that, and we put it out for the kids. And they touch it, they feel it. The high school kids are telling them about it, which is good for the high school kids too, because they learn, and they just get to put their hands on it. And again, it sparks that interest. And wow, cotton, this is how it's grown. And then we also have for our Fall Fest a pumpkin. We cut a pumpkin up, they could take it apart, put it back together, feel it, those sorts of things. We do offer, we have, and I say we, talking about Dr. Adam Long, Ruth O'Laughlin, who is the director at Lakeport Plantation Museum, and Shannon Williams, the director at Hemingway Pfeiffer Museum. We went together and created kindergarten, first, and second grade booklets. So we have those as a resource that includes all of our heritage sites and activities, that we also have YouTube videos to go along with. For third through fifth grade, we have educational packets that we've made. We're working on high school, and it will be coming soon. All right, so another part of what we do is professional development. So we keep our certification through the Department of Education current every year, get that number that we can hand out to teachers, because they have 36 hours, they have to get a professional development each year. So if they already need that professional development, why not offer that service and teach them about our heritage and our sites? Now, as much as I would love for everybody to come and visit us, that's not always possible. So the picture you see on the right-hand side, for the past 3 years, I've went to the Economics Arkansas yearly convention in Little Rock, and we'll do a presentation there. So it's not only about getting folks in, which we love, but it's about going out to folks and educating them on that. I mean, every time I do professional development off-site, I will hear someone say, we never knew this existed. And I'm not just talking about the Johnny Cash Boyhood Home. I mention all of our sites, and they're like, we had no idea. So it's just an awesome way to partner with folks like Economics Arkansas, Humanities Arkansas, educational cooperatives, to get the word out about who we are and what we do, because it is so important. Now, I put the picture in the bottom left-hand side just because I love it so much. This teacher was from Missouri, and she made these cutouts that represent her kids in the classroom. She couldn't bring them with her, but she was doing like a video diary for them. So we took this picture, and she took video, and she was taking it back to the classroom, like a virtual field trip for them. And I also sent her the link. One of our East programs did a virtual tour of historic Dawes Colony, Johnny Cash Boyhood Home. So she was able to share that with her kids. All right, so moving along, Johnny Cash Boyhood Home, Dawes Colony was the most recent completed project. Lakeport Plantation was the next to last restoration project. So the Lakeport Plantation House was built in 1859 on the Mississippi River in Chico County. Lakeport was gifted to Arkansas State University by the Sam Epstein Angel family in 2001. The 5-year restoration of the Lakeport Plantation House into a museum and public historic site was funded through grants from ANCRC, National Endowment for the Humanities, and Save America's Treasures. The plantation stories, and Ruth does such an incredible job of this, tells about slavery and the sharecropping, and she really takes time to not just say, this is a beautiful home, which it is, but tells the stories of the enslaved laborers, and this is where they had to sleep, and so I think that's such an important part of our history that folks know and understand, or try and understand. So we have guided tours at Lakeport Plantation. There are self-guided tours, and then of course, our groups and field trips as well. So some things that go on to spread the word other than just regular tours at Lakeport Plantation. On the left, I want to start with graduate student projects. So this past weekend, I had the pleasure of taking a group of graduate students from the Heritage Studies program down to visit Lakeport. We left Friday morning, went by the Civil Rights Museum of Memphis, drove on to Lakeport. They received a tour. And then the next morning, we had a presentation and went out to a local cemetery. So you can see in that picture, one of our graduate students, Emmanuel, is learning how to use that technology that detects where there is a grave that's unmarked, or a body, I guess I should say. So they would put flags there, and then the other students would come and they would dig a rectangle hole out to put the brick in and spray it and mark that. So we did, I think it was 71 bricks within a couple of hours that day. And it was just such a fantastic program. And last year when we went, we had our metal detectors, and we're searching for artifacts on part of the land out by Lakeport Plantation, and this program just continues to grow. I've been the last 3 years, and every time afterwards, the students are saying, "What are we doing next year?" So I think this is so important that it's a partnership with the Heritage Studies Department and our heritage sites, that we come together and give our students this hands-on experience, because we're training them to go out and do what we're already doing, which is to spread the word and to help people to really care about that history. The picture in the middle, reading retreat. So the one that Ruth has coming up in April is Wicked River, the Mississippi, when it last ran wild, and the Great River. So this is a reading retreat. Folks will come in, they'll get a tour, there'll be book talks, and it's just a great day to spend and to really dive into some of that history. She has folks, like one of the graduate students had drove for her last year, Life on the Mississippi, drove 4 hours to attend it. So, once people who do that, that just speaks to what a good job that she's doing in getting that word out about programming and the history. On the right-hand side, again, professional development. That was a group of teachers that came through Economics Arkansas. So just those partnerships. Okay, the Southern Tenant Farmers Museum. This is what I call Little Hidden Gem. I love it. I love them all. This one has a special place in my heart because of the story that it tells. Not only does the museum tell the progression of farming, but it tells about the formation of the Southern Tenant Farmers Union. So, in the past or last year, we had, or actually 2 years ago, we had some damage to the mural here on the side. By the way, this is the Bank of Tyronza. It is connected to the museum, which is this part here, and the gas station. Before I get to that, I want to just tell you a little bit about the mural. There was a beautiful scene up there, cotton fields. There was a leak, some leaks in the wall, so they had to patch that up, and we ended up having to get a new mural put up. So what we did this time is thought about, one of the stories we're telling, which is the Southern Tenant Farmers Union formation. So each one of those folks you see up there were taken from different pictures of the Southern Tenant Farmers Union, one of the meetings. One of the things, July of 1934 was the very first meeting, and it was at Sunnyside Schoolhouse there right outside of Tyronza. It had 11 white men and 7 black men. So think about that, July of 1934. And I know most of you probably know this story, but still, it just, it's so incredible to think that that diverse group came together and band together. Women were leaders in this union. I mean, that's just incredible that that happened. The headquarters to that union were right here in our museum. So standing in that museum and telling that story is such a special thing and a privilege to be able to do. So um, I'm thankful that we have this mural on the side. You can't see it very well, but where I'm pointing between these two folks is a little schoolhouse, which is our shout out to the Sunnyside Schoolhouse. So the Bank of Tyronza was built in 1916. It has the original bank vault in it, which is super cool. Everybody loves going in there and looking around. The museum is connected right back here. Two businessmen in town, Clay East and H.L. Mitchell. Clay East owned this gas station, and H.L. Mitchell had the dry cleaners and the barber shop. They were the ones that realized there was a problem. Again, you have the New Deal program, Agricultural Adjustment Act, apply up to 30-year cotton. We're going to send subsidies to landowners. They're going to pass them along to sharecroppers, tenant farmers. Win, win, win. Well, we know how that went. It didn't get all the way down to where it should have. So you had your sharecroppers and tenant farmers who had plowed up a third of their cotton. Sure, prices were going up, but they didn't get any of the subsidies. Families were starving. So that's what sparked Mitchell and East of talking about starting the Southern Tenant Farmers Union. And I'm going to move along because I could keep talking about that. A few things I want to point out. That bottom right-hand picture, you'll see in our museum some pictures where black men and women would stand close to white men for protection from the night riders. On the very first strike they had, they were successful. They bargained a higher price, a higher wage, because they caught the landowners off guard. After that, they were ready and was like, sure, you want to strike, get off our land. So one of the picture in the upper left-hand corner, which is just heartbreaking, folks would have to just grab up whatever they could and just have makeshift tents in a field with their belongings. So the headquarters stayed there in Tyronza until it finally became so dangerous and so large that the headquarters were moved to Memphis. Okay, so here's a picture of the way it was found before restoration and then after restoration. Restoration was completed and Southern Tenant Farmers Museum opened in 2006. So it was the second restoration project. So I put the emphasis on completed projects. So this is something that I'm so excited to tell you about, is our grain bin project. So this is, if you're looking at this picture, I was standing on the steps of the Southern Tenant Farmers Museum of the bank when I took this picture. So right across the road are the grain bins. The grain bins were donated to the city of Tyronza, and the city of Tyronza donated them to us, to Arkansas State University Heritage Sites. So Dr. Adam Long went to ANCRC and received a grant in 2023 to renovate that into an education events center. Okay, so here are some pictures. First thing I'm going to start is with the center one. There's the original scale will be there on display. It will be, boxed in, of course, so no one can touch it, but it will be there to see. This is going to be the entryway. You'll see over on the left, there's the large grain bin is the one that we're actually renovating. In the background, there are 4 other smaller ones. We don't have plans for those right now. We do have plans, just nothing that we can do right now. And then on the right-hand side, just another picture of the entryway. This part right here is the main street. All right, so a little bit of the inside. So on the left-hand side, what they did is built a grain bin inside of a grain bin. So this area here, there's going to be like a plexiglass so people can actually walk out and walk in that area and see. Here, this doorway, it'll be connected. Right here at the bottom, which is not in this picture, is the original auger. So that will be covered with a plexiglass that folks will be able to see that as well. But we thought it was important that they see the original grain bin of the inside and then the new. Of course, the space was needed because of all the heat and the air, maintenance issues. They needed that area in between. So the middle pictures, when you walk in, you'll see the space here. We're going to have, we'll be able to put tables and chairs if there's going to be a wedding, if there's going to be a reception, a reunion. And what I'm excited about is educational programming. So we'll be able to fit a lot of kids in that space. We'll have, projectors, screens, all types of things available and programming that we can do in that area. And plus, how cool is it that they're going to be in a grain bin? So the last picture on the right is, I was just shooting up looking at that. So I just think that's going to be a great learning tool that we're going to be able to use. All right, so some of the programs that we offer at Southern Tenant Farmers is my favorite one right there now is the Senior Lunch Program. So we work with FCCLA groups around the area, and part of their curriculum is they have to plan a meal, budget, purchase, and cook. So every Wednesday, there's a senior lunch. So keep in mind, we have our museum, we have across the road the grain bins, and across on the other side, so making a triangle, is the senior center with a full kitchen. So we have a group that will come once a month, different schools. This is Riverside or Rivercrest that you see here. They plan the meal, they purchase all the products they need to make it. They come around 9:30 in the morning and they start cooking. Then they serve the senior lunch. Now, what does that have to do with the museum? Well, if you look in this bottom picture, where that truck is, right out there is our museum. So you see the mural, they talk about it, they go over there, they walk through it with the folks, and those people will talk about the good old days, all day long to those kids. So it's such a great way to preserve our history with those stories coming right from the folks who lived it. Some activities they do in the afternoon, they'll teach computer skills. They teach set up an email, help them with their phones. So that's a really wonderful thing that I'm so glad that we're able to collaborate and partner with the community and schools. Okay, another thing that we started doing, this will be the fourth year, is summer camp, 7th through 12th grades. It's a free camp in June for 2 days. The Heritage Sites and the A-State Ag Department, we work together. The first day, they will start and get a drone demonstration. So that's the picture you see over on the left-hand side. At the top, we go out to the Equine Center, and we do a scavenger hunt in the afternoon across campus. And then the next day, we'll go down the road to the Judd Hill Foundation, which is where they do experiments with cotton crop and sustainability, and they explain all of their projects they have going on. We have lunch, and then we load up and go toward the Southern Tenant Farmers Museum. So that's a really great program that has been successful. All right, and the last location that I'm going to talk about, our other site, is Hemingway Pfeiffer Museum. So July 4th, 1913, Paul and Mary Pfeiffer moved from St. Louis, Missouri to Piggott. They acquired 63,000 acres of land, and until Paul's death in 1944 and Mary's in 1950, they were instrumental in making so many improvements in Clay County. They loved that community so much. One of the things that we joke about now, but it's a true story, and just shows, the heart of the Pfeiffers is, they had all these folks that were farming on their land, and sometimes things would get tight, and folks didn't want to ask for handouts. So Paul Pfeiffer would invite people, hey, my house really needs to be painted. So would you mind coming, and I'll pay you to paint the house? And so when they were doing the renovation, it was like a ridiculous 50 plus layers of paint, just insane, because that's how that they would help people. They cared and didn't want people to be offended at a handout, but allowed them to work for that. So how did Hemingway get involved? Paul and Mary Pfeiffer had a daughter, Pauline, and Pauline met and then married Ernest Hemingway. So they would come to visit, and Ernest would work in the barn that you see on the left-hand side. He would write up there. So he wrote a part of A Fair Little Arms, and along with some of his short stories that he worked on while there. So they would, again, come back and visit. And so that's how we have the Hemingway Pfeiffer Museum. It opened in July 1999 in conjunction with the national celebration of Hemingway's 100th birthday. It was the first heritage site, and it contains, which is just incredible, over 75% of the original furnishings. So if you haven't seen the Hemingway Pfeiffer Museum, it is worth the drive to Piggott. All right, some things that Hemingway Pfeiffer do to bring people in and tell them about the history right now or upcoming is a quilt show that they have every year. Just talking to Shannon, they have over 70 quilts already that they're going to be displaying this year that people are bringing in, that's upcoming. So again, they get folks in, they take the tour, they hear the history. In the center, they do reading retreats, and then they also do writing retreats. They have in June a writer in residence program. So again, just bringing folks in and telling them about the story. And then over to the right hand side, you see the Young Authors Program. So they did do this for third through sixth grade. It's an after school program. My son, when we lived in Piggott, was actually involved in this and loved it. And they create their own stories, and then at the end of the program, they each get like a bound copy of a spiral bound copy of all their stories. So just getting the kids interest and familiar with it is a big part of it. So I have absolutely talked a lot here. So I'm going to open it up for questions, comments. Just what do you have for me?
Thank you, Penny. That was excellent. Okay, you've got lots of nice comments thanking you and saying what a fascinating project about the grain bin. And
Yes.
I haven't seen that. I'm excited. I need to come back to Tyronza and look at that.
Yes.
You've got a couple questions in the Q&A. First, what is the name of the equipment used to locate unmarked graves in the cemetery?
I'm going to look that up because Ruth O'Loughlin sent that to me. So I'm pulling out my phone right now to get the correct name. Ruth, if you're on there, feel free to hop in. It is, give me just a second. It's a ground penetrating radar. It's what it's called. So it's a geophysical method that uses radar pulses to image the subsurface. So look up ground penetrating radar. And it's about the whole setup is around $6,000. The man that was there, Mr. John, doing that for us, he was telling us that's about what it costs to get that set up.
Was he with the Arkansas Archaeological Survey or just somebody
Ooh,
who has that?
um,
Ruth is on there. Maybe she'll chime in.
great, Ruth. Tell us about Mr. John because I had forgotten exactly what his title is, or maybe she's
He's
typing.
retired and does this for fun. Wow, that's pretty awesome. Because
Yes,
there's a lot of people around the state who would love to have somebody bring ground penetrating radar to their cemetery. The survey doesn't have enough staff or equipment to get around to everyone.
that
So
is true.
that's good to know. Mr. John might get some more business.
Yes.
Let's see. Can you share the link for information on the FCC LA group that comes to make lunch once a week?
Oh, about the program, how we set it up. Is that what you're wondering about, or are you interested in doing it? What kind of will you send? Best thing to do. Will you send me an email and tell me exactly what you need, whether it's how to set up the program or if you know somebody wanting to be involved. Would that be okay?
Sure, that's a question from a viewer. Yeah.
Okay.
So they will either type something else in there yeah, interested in replicating that kind of a program.
Great. Yes. Yes. If you'll just
Okay.
send me an email, I'll be happy to send that in detail to you.
Okay, I will do it. Let's see. Do you have written materials for the students to take back home after they visit the sites, and how valuable is that component to advancing the history of the sites to you?
Yeah, that's something that we are working on is post-assessment materials. Hopefully, it's like I said, a work in progress. It depends on the programming. If they do the kindergarten, first, second grade booklets, we found there are grants through Humanities Arkansas. Jamie Middleton, work with her. She can work with teachers to get grants to cover museum admissions and the materials. So depending on that, or schools normally don't have that kind of money to pay for both. If they have the booklets or the educational packets, then of course that goes with them. But we also, like the Johnny Cash activities I was talking about, I have materials to send with them. But Ruth and I actually were just talking last week about how that we need that component to send with them for follow up so they continue to learn. And I think it is extremely important.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. Oh, I'm amazed at all these projects. I've been to Lakeport and participated years ago in a speakers program there for Blake Wintry. Do you do this at other sites? And a very great start for women in preservation. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you. We do. We have, was it, guess, remind me again, was it programming? What was, I
For
lost
us,
a little bit.
speakers programs.
Oh yes, yes, we do. We're happy to set up programs with speakers. Keep an eye on our website. Let me back that up. Facebook is generally the first place to look. It should be on our website too, but our website's a little tricky on the updates on that and actually getting things. Seems like there's always an issue or update. So Facebook is the first place I would tell you to look for our activities that are upcoming at all of our sites.
Thank you. That was one question I was going to ask you is how do people keep up with what y'all are doing? Um, okay. And how do you balance your time and resources between several sites that are so far apart? Without going crazy.
I don't know that I've got that one down, but I, I, I absolutely love it. I would get bored if I was just doing the same thing day after day. So it's just a matter of, like for instance, Lakeport's 4 hour drive. So, but we're needed. We do it. That's what we do. It's the overall picture is we're trying to enlighten people and get people like one of our grad students that went, he was like, I want to work at this place when I graduate. So you see that and you think, why wouldn't I want to drive 4 hours it take these students? So it does, it is a juggling act and staying busy, but it is so worth it. Y'all know, you get it, you care about these places and you just do whatever it takes.
Yes, we do. Thanks, Penny. And then can you talked a little bit about the connection between the Heritage Studies PhD students and the sites, historic sites, but can you talk a little bit more? Not everybody may be familiar with the fact that ASU offers a Heritage Studies PhD.
Sure, yes, we do. It's sometimes confused because we're heritage sites and we're actually located like here. I'm in historic VCK's house, which was the first president of ASU. It's a restored home, so this is where we have our offices, Dr. Adam Long and myself. And then it's kind of our like headquarters, our base, and then we have our Heritage Studies PhD program. So our sites are learning laboratories for the Heritage Studies program. So we'll get graduate students that will go to the sites, or like we had one last semester, last year, that would do Zoom with Ruth in Lakeport because just, she couldn't make that trip. So they would Zoom and they would work on a project together. So our sites are used as learning opportunities and hands-on experience for heritage studies. We have a great working relationship together. And like right now, we have a student. He comes here to Kay's house. He'll go to Dice with me, and he'll just observe and shadow. He'll go on a tour. He'll help with inventory. Just really getting that hands-on experience of anything and everything, because y'all know the perception of a museum and what actually the reality of what you do are sometimes two very different things. So you do whatever you need to do whenever it needs done. So just getting them out and getting them that experience, I think is so important.
Absolutely. Thank you. And lastly, unless somebody else types something, are there opportunities for just the general public to get involved and to volunteer at your sites?
Absolutely. We love volunteers. Hemingway Pfeiffer has some incredible volunteers who've been there for years. We always welcome volunteers. In high school, age. Now it's part of required for them to graduate. They have to have service hours, so we can provide that if any of you have kids or something that need service hours. And then adults, any age, just contact us, and we would be more than happy to put you, like, giving tours, or whatever you're comfortable at. We would love to helping with events. Just send us an email, give us a call, and we always welcome volunteers.
Great. Thank you so much, Penny. We appreciate it. Thank you for speaking, and thank you all for watching. We'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Bye, Penny.